Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
Hey, and I'm Nile.
Nile, this week, look, I personally felt a shift in our reality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are we talking like a Mandela effect kind of thing? Maybe? Or are we talking?
It could be. It could be. I'm not exactly well versed in like the sort of nuance between the like CERN's sort of like technological manipulation of realities and their sacrifices to Baal or whatever it is that they do. Mm-hmm. I don't really know the difference between that and say an occult shifting of reality.
Okay.
But this one I sensed, and for me, it also manifested as a little voice in the back of my head. And Niall, that voice told me I needed to research occult secret societies and find out a little bit about what weaponry they might have in their arsenal.
Okay, so are we talking like now? The first thing for some reason that comes to mind when I talk about like weapons for the occult and like secret societies is the movie Van Helsing. So I'm assuming we're going to get a lot of like, light grenades and like and crossbows and stuff like that. Is that what we're talking about here? Or are we talking about the movie Van Helsing today?
Okay, I did last night watch the movie Van Helsing, but that is actually completely unrelated. It is kind of remarkable that you knew that you kind of bring that up since I watched it last night, but it really has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm completely off.
Well, yeah, you watched Van Helsing because of your love, your noted love on this podcast. That's a pretty common thing for vampire babes.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. Well, I don't know why you're sounding so surprised. We all know you love vampire babes.
I probably do, but I can't say for certain because I don't recognize the second word you're saying to me.
I'm talking about like those luscious vixens, the vampire women that are in Van Helsing, the vampire babes.
Did I see this in the movie last night that I totally watched last night and don't remember this term?
You don't remember Dracula's just like horde of like horny women that anytime they're like he's on screen they're just like stroking him sensually.
No, that I remember. Yeah. And these are babes.
Yeah, they're babes. It's
babes. Yeah. Oh, that's what you're saying. Okay. Yeah,
it's really weird that I have to translate one of your favorite things for you. It's frankly unsettling.
Look, I'm a little distracted by this shift in reality. Like it happened in the middle of me trying to watch my vampire babes in the middle of Van Helsing, and it's very distracting, and I'm kind of hyperfixated on it here.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that all of this is coming to. I think that occult forces in our world are growing in power, but lucky for all of you, It Gets Weird is here to inform you of what we're up against. Also, Niall, I think folks saw this topic mentioned in our patron Discord chat, and I had actually been elucidated. We talked about this in the Discord, but I had been elucidated on this subject pretty recently by browsing the blog of internet superposter Power Burial. So big shouts out to Power Burial if you ever, for some reason, end up listening to this episode. Or I don't know how that would happen, but I'd never heard of this thing before they posted about it. And you can, I guess this is just to say that you can find topics for this show in the strangest places. And this week, I want to talk about Franz Bardon and the magical weapon known as the Tepaphone. Do either of these things ring a bell for you, Nile?
Only in the sense that I saw a link get posted in the Discord, and then you effectively called dibs, and I then didn't click it. So I have seen the name in that respect, but outside of that, no.
The night that they were posting this stuff, I had begun to research this, so I was kind of like, oh shit, I need to cut this off before.
Just head this one off of the pass.
Yeah. So I was just very immediately intrigued by this topic. So this is. I say this is about the Tepaphone, but it really is about Franz Bardon, the person who was heavily involved with the Tepaphone, supposedly. So who was Franz Bardon? Bardon was born on December 1st, 1909 in Catherine, Czechoslovakia. And he was the youngest of 12 children. Now, that's the official story, at least, as one of Bardon's future students will find out. Oti Vodovova would claim that Bardon was actually not so much born as an infant as he was the soul of a highly advanced Hermetic adept that came to the earthly realm and implanted his soul in the 14-year-old boy known as Franz Bardon in 1924. Did you catch all that?
So the at least the physical body of Franz Bardon was born, and so that part tracks. But whether or not the soul was supplanted at the age of 14 with this extraterrestrial being or extra-dimensional being, I'm not 100% sure, is up for debate. Is that so? This was a normal child until the age of 14.
Yes. Okay. So some of Bardon's students of the occult would claim that their teacher was something called a walk-in, which is a New Age concept that is basically exactly how I described it just now, and I had never heard of it until this. A walk-in is... Sorry, go ahead.
Walk-in?
Yes.
Okay. Because I immediately, of course, went to Christopher Walken, and I don't know if that would be, there's really only one of him,
Yeah, Christopher Walken he's kind of like the Avatar in that when our Christopher Walken dies, a new Christopher Walken, a new Walken will be born. They will look different, but they will have the same voice as Christopher Walken, that very notable... do I do a Christopher Walken impression here? No, pretend I did, though.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll go and just assume that it was really good and that you have a perfect Christopher Walken in the chamber.
Yeah.
But you did just completely make me have to envision like Christopher Walken, the man, dying, and then all of a sudden a baby somewhere else on the earth just begins speaking in a perfect Chris Walken.
Yeah.
And that gives me the perfect idea for a spinoff of Boss Baby.
Okay, so the Boss Baby's going to get into some New Age shit then. Like it's
yeah.
The new Boss Baby is going to be Christopher Walken voicing his future reincarnation as a Boss Baby who has his soul supplanted.
Yeah, I really think that like DreamWorks Animation needs to get into stuff like Starseeds and Purple Children and like that kind of
Absolutely.
stuff. Like I think they need to get into some New Age concepts for their animation.
They got to spice it up. Maybe they could reference some like philosophy a la Helena Blavatsky in there, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a walk-in is said to be somebody whose soul was supplanted by another's either temporarily or permanently, and the old soul is replaced with a new, different soul from another plane of existence. And this was, like I said, a very new concept that I learned about as I researched Bardon and the Tepaphone. And we gotta probably do this one someday because some people use it to explain the idea of otherkin.
Okay.
Which, a portion of the listeners here are like probably nodding along with what I'm saying here, and then another much more significant portion is probably just like shaking their heads confused. Someday we'll talk about it.
Yeah, so do you have any idea if this has like any... I don't know. As soon as you started talking about this, after I got over the initial shock of Christopher Walken, I went straight to soul scalping.
Yeah.
And we always kind of have this fascination with how different sides of the varied topics we talk about on this podcast kind of cross over and have these almost different explanations for different things, i.e., aliens being from another dimension or demonic forces or just from another planet.
Yeah.
And I'm always curious if you ran across like this in either compared to or explaining like something like a soul scalping procedure.
Honestly, I had to stay like really focused on this specific story because I was already like really enticed by this like new age paranormal interdimensional theory of otherkin, but I didn't really like run into too much crossover. But what I can say is that like this particular brand of Hermeticism that I learned about with this guy did influence multiple different like subsets of like new age belief and spiritualism and stuff like that. We'll get to that, but no, I didn't really like run into soul scalping or anything in this. If to kind of actually answer your question there, I didn't run into that.
For anyone that doesn't know, soul scalping is when a demonic alien enters your body and basically possesses you through going in through your eye. And if you ever see a politician or famous person with a black eye, it means they've probably been replaced by a reptilian alien or Anunnaki kind of thing. So we had an episode about it like a year, like I always, anytime I try to guess at how long an episode was ago, I'm so far off that I'm going to stop guessing. Yeah. We did an episode about soul scalping and Sherry Shriner, if you go back. So anyway, all right, I'll stop derailing.
Can you just imagine Joe Biden like walking into like the bedroom and he's wearing a pair of shades and his wife, Dr. Biden, is like, take the shades off. What did the soul scalpers do to you this time? And he like reluctantly takes the shades off and reveals his black eye. So check out soul scalping, fun for the whole family. This walk-in story that went around about Bardon claimed that this soul of a hermetic adept was sent to the body of Bardon to assist his father, Victor Bardon, who I guess was a devout Christian mystic. And I keep mentioning Hermeticism, and I'm going to very briefly explain that. This is Hermeticism being the Hermetic arts and philosophies, but I think in cases like Bardon, people are very focused on the magical, alchemical, and astrological aspects of Hermeticism. We got to do like an episode on the New Age relationship to Hermeticism someday because it's so important. But I do have a brief passage from franzbardonacademy.com to explain the basis of Bardon and his followers' Hermetic beliefs. So their story says, the antiquity of the Hermetica dates back some 36,000 years BC. The author was Thoth, an Atlantean priest who founded a colony in ancient Egypt after the sinking of the mother country. He was the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza, erroneously attributed to Cheops. I don't know what Cheops is, but it mentions it. In it, he incorporated his knowledge of the ancient wisdom and also securely preserved records and instruments from ancient Atlantis. For some 16,000 years, he ruled the ancient race of Egypt from approximately 52,000 BC to 36,000 BC. At that time, the ancient barbarous race, among which he and his followers had settled, had been raised to a high degree of civilization. Thoth was an immortal, that is, he had conquered death, passing only when he willed, and even then not through death. So it's not really dying there, but whatever. His vast wisdom made him ruler over the various Atlantean colonies, including the ones in South and Central America. You know the ones, right? When the time came for him to leave Egypt, he erected the Great Pyramid over the entrance to the Great Halls of Amenti, placed it in his records, and appointed guards to protect it from among the highest of his people. In later times, the descendants of these guards became the pyramid priests, by which Thoth was deified as the god of wisdom, the recorder, by those in the age of darkness which followed his passing. In legend, the halls of Amenti became the underworld, the halls of the gods, where the soul goes after death for judgment. During later ages, the ego of Thoth passed into the bodies of men, and he incarnated 3 times, in his last being known as Hermes, the thrice-born. In this incarnation, he left the writings known to modern occultists as the Emerald Tablets, a later and far lesser exposition for the ancient mysteries. So, these Emerald Tablets and the writings of Hermes are kind of what shape Hermeticism. Now, how much of that specific story is accurate to the Hermetic tradition. I'm not totally certain, but this is what the Bardon Academy has to say on the origins. And so that's kind of in the scope of our story here.
Okay. This is a thing that I know of in like vague concept of Hermeticism, but haven't heard the whole thing. So
yeah,
whether or not this is the official designation, it's pretty wild. I'm into it.
Yeah, well, and I know that Hermeticism has been brought up a number of times because a lot of secret societies and occultists draw from these ideas. In particular, the Rosicrucians, who I briefly discussed in our episode on the Bavarian Illuminati, and of course the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, whose their secrets were put on blast by the infamous Aleister Crowley before he was canceled by bronchitis in 1947. Anyway, the young Bardon was said to be an assistant and initiator to his father, who was, this is their phrasing, not mine, stuck in his spiritual development, which it doesn't really explain what that means, but I'm assuming it means like, oh, he is like developing as a mystic, but like he hit like a plateau or something. I don't really know. It doesn't go into details on that. Bardon's early life on the surface wasn't particularly exciting. He worked as an industrial mechanic for a while. At some point, he got married to a woman named Marie, and he even had his own stage show as a magician in Germany, where he went by the name Frabato. However, behind the scenes...
Fantastic.
Yeah, the fantastic Frabato. Behind the scenes, however, he was a dedicated occultist.
Look, you got to pay the bills somehow, and being dedicated to the occult arts doesn't always do it. However, in the right environment, stage magic can be quite lucrative.
Yeah. Well,
so, I get it.
Yeah, well, like, you know, he's doing his, like, mind freak routine on the outside, but on the inside he's like, I could mind freak them for real, but it doesn't sell, baby. I gotta sell the fake stuff, you know. It's kind of like I had a thought and I lost it.
Yeah,
like
fine.
Immediately. You ever have that happen?
Oh yeah. Most times I edit mine out, but I leave yours in. But,
thank you.
This is no. I always love someone who's hiding, not really hiding in this case, but they have their behind the scenes weird passions and they're hiding it with stage magic.
Right.
So I love a stage magician who is actually magic. Like the Zatara thing in DC, and I'm just into it. I'm fucking into it. It's great.
And it falls in line with the sort of conspiracy idea of hiding in plain sight. It's like, well, if this guy's stage thing is a magician and like illusions, then, you know, obviously he's not going to be an actual practicing like magician behind the scenes. But no, that's what he went with. And it's much of his occult work involved developing his own alchemical recipes for medicine. I guess that was his primary focus. I guess I'm going to say up front here, and I'll kind of mention this later in context with something in the story. I don't get too deep into his actual like practices, because if we did that, this would be a multi-part episode. I think that we could dedicate an entire episode at a minimum to Bardon's particular hermetic occultist like rituals and practices. Legit.
Hell yeah. Okay.
So this medicine that he would make alchemically, he claimed had extraordinary healing powers. And throughout his life, he would develop 3 volumes of text on his hermetic magic, which were Initiation into Hermetics, published in 1956, and then volumes 2 and 3, which would be The Practice of Magical Evocation and The Key to the True Kabbalah. Now, I couldn't figure out when volumes 2 and 3 were published, but volume 1 was published only 2 years before his death in 1958. So either they were published posthumously, or he had like been working on these and they kind of came out, and I really don't know when volumes 2 and 3 came out. I just know the first one was 1956.
Okay. I mean, look, you get sometimes publishing deals take a while, and
right.
You find, or they'll find a book in the drawer after the person is dead. So maybe the third book didn't come out until long after his death. Who knows? But either way, we have 3 books on the Hermeticism. I remember growing up. You remember when Kabbalah was like the celebrity religion, right?
No. What?
No, isn't that like Madonna and everyone were like
Really?
Kabbalists? Yeah, it was like before Scientology really like hit. I feel like Kabbalah was like the religion du jour or spirituality du jour of like celebrities in like the maybe late 80s, 90s, somewhere in there. I could totally be fucking like talking out my ass here, and if I am, I'm sorry, but I believe. Let me just Google real quick Madonna Kabbalah.
I mean, I believe you. I don't remember this, but I believe you, and it would make sense that like people like Madonna would then get wrapped up in like conspiracy theories if they're involved with something like the Kabbalah. Like that's like shrouded in mystery that conspiracy theory loves to latch onto.
Madonna, Demi Moore, others give Kabbalah cachet.
Wow, we're finding another episode topic in the middle of this episode. That's amazing.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to look into Kabbalah. That's because it's like a Jewish mysticism,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he and yeah, I guess one of his books was on the Kabbalah. As it related. Yeah,
that's what brought it up. I don't know how it relates here, but if it's the same thing or not.
It's something to do with Hermeticism. I really don't know, because Hermeticism is drawing from like a lot of stuff, including both Christian and Jewish mysticism. So yeah. Now, I'd mentioned earlier how his student and apparently secretary, Oti Vodovova, she told stories of Bardon's life as a mystical walk-in adept. And these stories, in fact, most of the quote-unquote facts about Bardon's life story come from a book called Frebato the Magician. Yeah, which...
Sorry, that name continues to tickle me.
It's a very good name. And this book was published posthumously in 1979. And the title, of course, was a reference to his actual stage name as a German magician. And the book itself was meant to be a novelized biography of his life. Like it's like a storytelling of his life, not like a dry facts thing. It is like theatrical.
So it's the message for this like occult religion.
Effectively. Unfortunately,
do you know what the message is?
Something about divine providence. I don't like. This is again a thing that we would have to kind of get into with his actual like rituals and practices and stuff.
I mean the message as like the title of a book. It was a thing where they retold the Bible as like a story. Mm-hmm. So it's written like a novelization effectively, right. And it was like very popular in Christian circles. So that's what for some reason that's just what popped up in my head of like. And I figured that was not a thing you may have known, so I wanted to make it clear.
I figured you were asking thematically, which if you want to know thematically what it's about, it's about family.
It's about found family. Yeah. It's about getting past your. It's about rehousing your inner child or something.
Teen angst, all kinds of really just the entirety of just like human emotion, but primarily family.
Okay.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Bardon only ever managed to construct a framework and like notes for this biography because he died before it was able to like even be properly written. And so the completion based on that framework and very likely embellishment of that framework on his life story was completed by Vodovova. And this is just to say that it is possible. No, it is likely that some of the stuff I'm about to tell you has been, let's say, improved.
Sweetened? It's been sweeted? Yeah. What was the Be Kind Rewind thing?
Yeah, sweetened. It's been embellished. There's some interesting stuff about his life during wartime that I think are true, even if it's embellished. But we can at the very least say that Bardon told some of these things directly to Vodovova before he died. And I figured this is probably obvious, but anytime I say the name Frebato in this story, it of course means Bardon himself. This story is about Frebato the magician, but it is also meant to be, hey, this is the life of Bardon, Franz Bardon. So during his time in Germany performing as Frebato, it seems Bardon had really made a name for himself with his magical capabilities. And he drew the attention from a few secret societies and occult groups. One in particular was the Freemasonic Order of the Golden Centurium, or just FOGC, which ironically has absolutely no relation to regular craft Freemasonry. So that's Freemasonic Order of the Golden Centurium, no relation.
Okay.
And that's just to say that there's like the craft version of Freemasonry, and then there's just like these like occult mystical Freemasons that just like, I don't know if they just like use the word or whatever. I really don't understand why they're called Freemasonic.
It's the difference between like craft and like great value Freemasonry. You know, it's store brand versus name brand.
This is Dollar Tree Freemasonry. But the FOGC was founded in 1840, supposedly in Munich, by rich German industrialists, and all the accounts of this secret occult order seemed pretty hardcore. According to some passages in Bardon the Magician, the book, there were all kinds of dark practices going on with the FOGC. This book describes how the 99 all-male members of the FOGC are well-versed in a variety of psychic attacks and dark arts. I found claims on a corner of the internet on a website that must not be named that every 5 years the FOGC would serve up lodge sacrifices to the lodge daemon, and this was based on a lottery system. So they would like of the 99 members, they would like pick up out of a lottery their like sacrificial ticket, basically.
So this is straight up that short story, The Lottery, right? Where okay, all right.
Yeah, they would end up sacrificed, and they would be made to ingest poison. And because all members were bound to this lodge by blood oaths with daemons, in the afterlife, the members would have to serve the daemons that they were in contract with. Or at least so it is said. And their conscription into this black magic order led to all members becoming masters of the black magical arts. And one particular art that's mentioned is that of combat telepathy, I read, but like also like psychic attacks and supernatural weapons.
Sorry, that just sounds like the most buck wild D&D class ever. I'm a combat telepathic.
I mean, that's not too far off. And really what it is it's the scanner's ability. You just can think really hard to make somebody's head explode, I think. I don't really know. It doesn't get into the details too much, although it does describe a ritual. I don't know whether it's combat telepathy, but they do describe a ritual where they, like, remotely kill somebody.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So here's another disclaimer. Like a lot of the stuff in this book, there is some question as to whether the FOGC Lodge existed at all. We'll get to it, but later there were other secret order and occult members who like publicly wrote articles coming out like talking about this thing. So it kind of corroborates Bardon's like assertion that he was like that they existed, not that he was like in combat with the FOGC, like we'll find out here in a moment, but it's not certain that they were a real lodge, but some places claim they were.
Okay.
Like we don't have like hard evidence of like ex-members and like documents. It's all like, oh, these are like supposedly secret minutes from meetings at these things that like were smuggled into other lodges and stuff. It's all hearsay, really. Nonetheless, Bardon seems to claim that this lodge held power until the Nazis came to power in the 1930s. And during that period, the FOGC tried to recruit the magician known as Bardon for his incredible magical abilities. However, it was revealed to the lodge that not only was Bardon aware of the many crimes of the FOGC lodge, but also that Bardon's powers far outweighed theirs. There is a theme in this book, and I'm just going to say it gets weird podcast when we talk about people with like supernatural abilities, where these people are like super powerful, all focus on them, just like spotlight on them because they are just so awesome.
Yeah. Well, we only talk about the cream of the crop here on It Gets Weird.
Exactly.
We don't talk about any losers.
Right.
Second tier, third tier, none of those people get it. They don't deserve an episode.
Right. We don't talk about any black magicians who like had hermetic, supernatural abilities.
Please clarify.
Oh, sorry. Well, that's what they are, though. Like,
I know.
They're practitioners of the dark arts. But we don't talk about any of them who are like really fucking shitty at it. You know, like, so I guess that's fair. It just kind of falls into place that history will remember the truly powerful magic wielders and spellcasters. So, God, if that isn't a section on my Wikipedia article after I die, then I'll have failed as a human being in my life.
Now that's assuming that either one of us does anything worthy of getting a Wikipedia page.
Right, that's true. But if I were to have a Wikipedia page, I'd want it to have something about spellcasting in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they try to recruit him, but he's like the hero. He's like, no, I'm the hero wizard who is way stronger.
He's the lone
than you.
wolf magician.
Exactly. And the members of the FOGC decided to move forward with a powerful curse against Frabato and a declaration of supernatural war, effectively. At the same meeting that they curse him, they perform a ritual to kill a member of the lodge who had betrayed their secrets. And then in the story, Frabato witnesses the unknown member of the lodge's sudden death in public, and immediately, just with his supernatural senses, realizes that it was another crime perpetrated by the FOGC. Now, I do want to remind you that all of this information I've just described is conveyed in prose, like a fantasy narrative, and like I said, it very often highlights how Frabato is a truly ascended master of magic. He is just awesome. So now the FOGC Lodge felt, I guess, smug about their declaration of war against Frabato, just because of the strength of their own dark powers. And here's how the book describes their abilities. Quote, "One of the secrets of the FOGC Lodge members lay in their ability to put anyone to sleep, wake him up, make him sick or healthy, and invigorate or kill him whenever they liked. The leading members of the lodge, however, had only acquired this knowledge by entering into a pact with a prince of demons. With their magical methods, they were able to influence any untrained person who had no way of discovering the source of the influences at work upon him." Which is fucking wild. They could just, on a whim, perform a ritual that would kill anybody. And that just calls into question, every death. I mean, this is Death Note shit. This calls into question every death in the era that this lodge operated. They could kill anybody they wanted.
Well, also, I love the power creep of just you listing their abilities. They can make anyone fall asleep or wake up. Okay, that so can a nice cup of warm milk or a loud noise. Mm-hmm. You also have make them ill or cure them, but then you also just have kill them.
Yeah,
there's some severe disparity in level of power there.
I mean that. This is them just testing out their new supernatural weapon. And all right, well, let's see what this baby can do. And they're putting their test subject to sleep, waking him up, giving him hepatitis, taking the hepatitis away, and then oops, oh shit, okay, that one killed him. We got to be careful with that particular button. Yeah, there's some serious power creep. Okay, now you mentioned the something phone earlier on. Have we gotten to the actual weapon yet, or are we just talking about the the powers of this occult society? Or is that the weapon? That is where we're at. They have various powers performed through rituals and dark contracts with evil demons and things like that, but they also have supernatural weapons. And that's where the Tepaphone finally comes in that I mentioned at the start of the episode. So it had been conflated in my head so much already that it was the Hermetiphone, and that was just how it's the Hermetiphone, and it looks like a Nokia N-Gage in my head. That's where my brain is right now. So I'm gonna need you to right some wrongs here. Yeah, that honestly should have been the counter weapon of Frabato. He's got the Hermetiphone. It looks like a Nokia N-Gage. He can actually play some pretty cool games on it, which is kind of the appeal of it, but also it counters the dark magic of the Tepaphone. Yeah, so the FOGC had many rituals to attack and even kill enemies, like I said, but for Bato, they chose the Tepaphone. So here's how the book describes it. Quote, "It was the Lodge's most strictly guarded secret, a magical vibratory instrument which could emit fatal vibrations across any distance and constituted the deadliest weapon in the arsenal of the Lodge. If the picture or mumia, I don't know what that means. I think it means like a mummy or like the like essence of a person.
Okay.
If the picture or mumia of any human being or animal were placed at the focal point of the Tepaphone's vibrations, both the astral and physical bodies of that entity would be affected. Substances of any kind could be destroyed by this instrument from any distance. Furthermore, it served as a wireless transmitter of energy, something modern science could only dream about. Any kind of thought could be transmitted by the Tepaphone as well. Finally, the device made it possible to cause nervous diseases and poisonings which puzzled the medical establishment. Typically, a picture or personal object was sufficient to establish contact with the intended victim. And remember, distance was of no consequence."
So we have like a magical AC like vibrator here is what I'm
Yeah.
we have an occult vibrator that is so powerful that it can like make you ill or kill you from across the planet.
Yeah. And it's got multiple like vibration settings, and
Of course.
they gotta crank it up to mega vibration when they want to kill this powerful magician. Now, I ran into one of those scenarios where a bunch of websites restate the exact same information without citing sources. I also didn't have time to read all of Vibrato the Mission, but it seems somewhere in Bardon's writings he did provide some instructions. I'm just not sure where. I did find a blog. I did find a blog called Uncle Chucky's General Store and Death Ray Works.
Okay.
Subtitled "Being the Web Home of Charles W. Cosimano," which I guess is this guy Cosimano who's like interested in esotericism, psionics, and death rays.
Hey, sounds cool. I like this guy.
It's weird. I didn't look through the whole website, but he had a whole thing where he was talking about this particular device. And in the blog, he describes his attempt to build his own Tepaphone based on the writings of Bardon, although it's done in a really haphazard manner. So here I have the various internet sites that describe the legendary artifact, and this one specifically is from josephmax.wordpress.com, so shouts out to whoever Joseph Max is. It says, "The Tepaphone is described as a framework holding multiple optic lenses mounted in front of a light source, and a separate section consisting of a flat holder surrounded by copper wire coils with a copper plate in the center on which the light was projected. From this simple description and knowing what kind of technology was available at the time, the Tepaphone was probably a modified magic lantern, an early kind of slide projector that was used extensively by Masonic lodges in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The first versions had either a built-in oil or alcohol lamp with wick, or separate lamp was placed inside the box to provide a light source. Later versions used electric lamps and eventually evolved into the optical slide projectors of the late 20th century.
Okay.
One way to make the Tepaphone could have been simply winding the wire coil around the projection tube of the magic lantern, supposedly so that one end of the wire is in contact with the wick of the oil or alcohol lamp inside the magic lantern case, and placing a copper plate in position so that the projected light could strike it. The entire apparatus could have been mounted on a single frame or platform. The witness of the target, photo, hair, or other tissue sample, was placed against the copper plate and various colors were projected onto it, while the operator and assistants conducted a ritual to curse the targeted individual. It's possible that sigils or other drawn images were also used for projection, since the glass slides used in magic lanterns could be, and often were, painted by hand. So that's what the thing looks like, and it literally looks like a really, really old projector. You can find pictures of this thing. It just looks like an ancient slide projector.
Okay.
Yeah.
You put the like picture or hair or whatever, some sort of representation of your target on this thing, and then you beam a light onto it of different colors for different effects and perform a ritual?
Yes. You take the picture of your enemy, you place it on this copper plate, you blast it with all these lights, and you yell, "Fuck you!" until they die.
Okay.
That's a simplification, but that's basically what it is.
So what makes this a vibration? What makes this a vibrator?
I don't know if it's actually a vibrator so much as it's like they're talking about like vibrational energies that it somehow simultaneously is able to manipulate physical and I don't know. I think okay. It's just.
I guess I technically was the one to bring up the word vibrator, so I shouldn't then try to make you prove that it was or wasn't.
They do mention
that's
vibrations.
Not quite fair to the source.
They do. They're talking about the vibrations that would simultaneously affect astral and physical bodies that they were targeting. So you're not wrong. But at what point there's vibration as you described it, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. So
so it's a mystical projector.
Yes.
That lets you just kill some. Okay. All right. I'm with it, I guess.
Yeah. And supposedly other secret occult groups would also utilize this machine, including an offshoot of the German Ordo Templi Orientis, known as the Fraternitas Saturni, or FS, and a former member of the FS named Guido Walther, a.k.a. Grandmaster Daniel, which is his
oh, that's fantastic.
That's his secret society name, I guess. He would later write an article in the 1960s that I guess claims stuff about the FOGC and their access to the Tepaphone device, and this is where people are like, oh, so that corroborates Bardon's account of the FOGC and the Tepaphone. So I guess another person mentions this thing. And fun fact, if you look up Guido Walther, you can find some of his sex magical drawings that depict a nude succubus with bat wings and a trident, and below her is a cross composed of erect penises. Alas, a topic for another day.
What would happen if you throw that thing up on the Tepaphone?
Dude,
you're gonna kill a succubus?
All kinds of you're gonna bring a succubus down to our plane of existence, and I don't even want to detail what happens next. That's NC-17 material.
That goes on your fan fiction blog.
Yeah.
Okay, so these things, there wasn't just one Tepaphone. It sounds like the other secret societies had them as well.
Yeah, well, Nile, here's the beautiful thing. You can make them.
Yeah. So having something that is that powerful just across multiple secret societies, and something that you the fact that I can just make one of these at home, sure, I can make an orgon accumulator or an orgon blaster at home, but that's only useful to shoot at UFOs that only I can see. But this thing, I can just do some rituals and just murder anybody with no trace?
Supposedly.
Okay. All right.
And I guess, these, you have to, I guess, somehow know super intense and evil dark arts to make it work. So it's not it's anybody can just straight up make it and make it work. You have to study this Hermeticism and this magic and these I didn't find exactly what you're supposed to do for the ritual, but presumably it requires some esoteric knowledge.
There's got to be an Esotericism for Dummies book that I can get or something.
Yeah.
That can just guide me to that so I can smite all of my enemies.
Yeah, if a bunch of weird deaths start cropping up Death Note style in Indiana, you know what's up. But yeah, so speaking of making your own, the article also mentions Raymond Holder, who I couldn't figure out who this was, but I'm going to assume they're some form of occultist, because this person wrote a book called The Antichrist Training Manual.
Hell yeah.
I don't know who he is, but the Amazon.com summary describes the book as recipes and spells, once held by, quote, ones who sought to dominate the world along with everyone and everything in it, for example, Napoleon and Hitler. You should be warned that this is the real and true magic of the ancients.
Please tell me you have the price on Amazon for this real and true magic of the ancients.
It was like $20.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a low price.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, and I'm sure it goes on sale every once in a while, so you should probably get it for like a solid $15 and just know the secrets of the Antichrist.
Yeah, I think a Prime Day is coming up, so anybody who has a Prime membership, just put this one on your buy later list so you can have the dark magics of both Napoleon and Hitler to conquer the world and all of its inhabitants.
It's a perfect Prime Day gift for yourself or a family member.
We're gonna do we don't do ads on this podcast. We're gonna do an ad telling everyone what books to buy on Prime Day, including the Anarchist Cookbook and this thing. So,
how ironic it would be if the Anarchist's Cookbook ended up on Amazon. If anybody wants to know how to make thermite or get on a government watch list, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. In fact, I felt like I had to pull this stuff from the Amazon.com page for this book, because you can also find a review comment submitted by a person whose name is just straight up Raymond Holder. So presumably it's the author, because it says this. This message is for the people who bought my book and wanted to see the recipe for the Tepaphone. I took it out of the book for personal reasons. I requested for a change on Amazon but failed. I was surprised at the many email requests I received for this particular recipe. I thank everyone for their support in my research and hope to bring you more of the most rare and obscure recipes, parentheticals, spells, in ancient magic in the near future. Some say Franz Bardon stole the information from his mentor Ra Omir Quincher, and that Quincher invented battery magic in the 1920s. Put a bookmark on that name.
Yeah, and battery magic. What are we talking about here? Are we talking about like sleight of hand with like D cells, or what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I'm assuming what it means is like magic that could like fuel batteries.
Oh, okay. See, I was looking at it as like battery of like assault.
Quincher.
Like, like force push.
No. Quincher is a person that I will bring up again in a little bit here, but he is either, depending on which thing you've read, in one place he is a student and friend of Bardon, or he is in other places he's referred to as one of Bardon's teachers.
Okay.
I don't know. But it goes on to say, I don't know if Bardon stole the information or not, but as for Quincher inventing battery magic, that is a lie. I have found works dating to the early 1800s that speak of battery magic, and it is also said that his device was called the Tepa, and is mistakenly called the Tepaphone. This is also a lie because, again, I have older works that speak of ancient devices for sending or calling energy, and the suffix is phone. I've seen at least 3 old devices that use the term, and they all existed before either of the above-mentioned people were born. I also have different versions of the same concept from different people with how and why their devices worked. This is where research comes in. Most importantly, understanding of what you read. I don't claim to know it all, and I will never know it all, but my goal is to search for the truth with an unbiased opinion. So that what was lost will be found again. We don't invent or find anything, we only rediscover it. Again, thanks for your support.
This guy doesn't seem like the best salesman of his own work here, because he's kind of undercutting his own content here. I don't feel like that's a really good sales pitch.
Well, but he does say, like, I tried to get this version retracted from Amazon because it contained the Tepaphone recipe, but that didn't work, so it still contains the Tepaphone recipe. So in that way, it's sort of a reverse psychology-ish. Like, he's
okay.
I don't know if that's his intention, but hey, maybe it works. Because apparently people genuinely want to learn about this Tepaphone thing and learn how to make it. Because he does go on to give step-by-step instructions for constructing your own Tepaphone, which is basically how I described it earlier, but using like stuff you can buy at the store. The key difference between this one and my description of the device earlier is that Holder claims to use ethyl alcohol as fuel for the lamp, and then this alcohol is infused with certain ingredients to create a magical fluid condenser, which in occultism is a magical fluid that contains a lot of the things you might expect, which would be metals, resins, gold in particular, but sometimes the gold is replaced with human blood or semen.
Yeah,
So
those are all interchangeable as far as I'm concerned.
yeah,
so
and they all taste great. So this is serious shit. The FOGC Lodge has it out for our hero Frabbato, and they're using their secret weapon to take him out. Well, I have to cut a long story short. Basically, Frabbato is such a powerful wizard, they simply can't kill him. And Frabbato also ends up being inducted into an organization referred to as the Brethren of Light in one of the articles that I read, which I'm going to assume is synonymous with the Hermetic Brotherhood of Light, which is another German offshoot of Ordo Templi Orientis. So, with the protection of the Brotherhood of Light, or Brethren of Light, whatever they are, Frabbato is able to successfully defend himself from the FOGC offense. And that is a pretty quick summary of what Frabbato and thus Bardon claim to have actually happened to him during his time in Germany in the lead up to the Nazis taking power. If you want to get into the sort of bland details of it and the sort of fantastical narrative that he weaves around all this stuff, I was able to find a copy of the book online in PDF form just by doing some searching and Googling. It's only 100 pages, so again, didn't read the whole thing, but I did skim it. And when I was skimming through it and jumping to chapters, it felt to me that it was a bit of a self-aggrandizing work and kind of a boring story, if I'm honest. For instance, I jumped to chapter 8, which I have up right now, and chapter 8 starts with the sentence, Frabbato awoke in his hotel room, deeply concerned about the direction of history. And it goes on to have him talk about corruption and politics and all this bad stuff happening, and we need to do divine work and stuff like that. Just conquering various problems through magic and what he calls divine providence, which I think is a Hermetic concept. There are other interesting and important revelations to Bardon's story through this text, however. For instance, it seems that one of the reasons he was such an incredibly powerful Hermetic mystic and magician, what comes out is that his spirit that came to inhabit the body of the person known as Franz Bardon back when he was 14 years old was the reincarnated soul of Hermes Trismegistus. Holy shit. Hermes, that's the creator of Hermeticism itself, and apparently the founder of Freemasonry. It's also suggested in what appears to be Vodovova's account, her embellishing, that a past life of his was as a Tibetan wise man known as Mahom Ta Ta. He's also, and I don't really know how, but he's also supposedly connected in some way, perhaps through past lives, with Apollonius of Tyana, Lao Tzu, Nostradamus, and a few other historical figures. So
a lot of the great thinkers of the ancient age. Okay.
Yeah. So he's wow. It is just really all over the place, this stuff. But Vodovova's embellished account of Bardon was also revised by its publisher, Dieter Rugeberg, who claims that two portraits in the book of Hermes and Lao Tzu were painted by Bardon himself by using a magic mirror. I don't know more beyond that. It sounds like he put a mirror in front of himself that magically showed him his past lives or something like that, and then he painted from that. I looked through the book and didn't find these portraits, but there's a mention of it anyway. I wish I could tell you more.
Okay, so this guy, is this guy a painter? Just because he's magical just doesn't mean necessarily doesn't mean his portrait painting skills are on point. I
mean, maybe through divine providence the spirit moved through him and guided his paintbrush. I really don't know. It's maybe something that if I do an episode on his particular Hermeticism, we could I could find more information on that. But in my studying of his life story, I didn't know what to do with that, but I felt like I should mention it because it's kind of referenced it's here's explanation, here's some evidence that explains that he is this reincarnated soul. Man, a lot of reincarnation on the episode recently, or on the show.
Yeah. We've had 2 weeks of it. We're gonna have to maybe find some other stuff here soon.
Yeah.
But reincarnation's interesting. I and these are two, to be fair, these are two very different versions of reincarnation.
Yeah.
So
it's not so much that he's like literally, like, oh, I am the body and soul of the. It's like, oh no, this soul that like came from another dimension, the ether or whatever, like put itself in this body, and it happened to be the soul that like was also the soul of all these like past figures. So I mentioned before how a portion of the story is said to have come from Bardon speaking directly with Vodovova before his death. Well, at the start of the PDF, I found that there is this opening that is like an about the author section that's written by Rugeberg, who like says that he got this account of his life, of Bardon's life, from Vodovova, who then got it like directly from Bardon. So this is like as close as we get to like an account, like a proper account of his life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a couple degrees
that's still
removed.
like third hand,
Yeah.
but it's. I guess we'll take it.
Yeah. So this is.
Does no one like? Did no one see for Bato the magician back in the day? Like, we don't have anybody that can talk about his exploits there.
I really didn't find like accounts of like you'd think he would have some sort of like documentation via like the various like secret orders he met up with, and like he had students and stuff, or at least supposedly he did. And like I said, there's like a like online school of Bardon's Hermeticism even, but like I found the information on that kind of sparse as well. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. I think I'm gonna have to do a deeper dive into his Hermeticism in the future, and maybe we'll uncover more about who he was.
Yeah, I realize that a lot of these questions are going kind of afield of what you researched, but there's just like, this is just, it's a very interesting topic because there's so much of it that just seems to be so easily just made up.
Oh,
you know?
The embellishments.
I'm just curious,
the embellishments, like a lot of the fantastical stuff, I'm assuming just comes from Vodovova, like, or interpreting his version of the story. I think on some level, this guy probably believed a lot of the wild stuff that's asserted in this book, as far as like, oh, he had a magic battle with a secret order of occultists and stuff like that. Like, I think that he genuinely would have like said like that happened. But again, there's a lot of random stuff in there that's like, oh man, I have no way of knowing what Bardon would have asserted to be true, unfortunately, because he died. And like the books on Hermeticism, I don't think get too much into his personal history, and they're also like one volume of that was like over 500 pages long.
Jesus. Okay.
So it's a lot. But yeah, in this about the author section, it's about how he gets caught up with the rise of Nazism during World War II. And this is the stuff that like I think in some part is real, because some of this definitely happened. So it explains, you should be able to figure out the stuff that I can't confirm happening, by the way. It explains how Adolf Hitler was a member of the Dresden Lodge, which was one of the 99 lodges of secret societies the world over. And it says that Hitler and some of his comrades were members of the Thule Order. For more info, see Nile's episode on Vril Society or one of his occult Nazi episodes. The Thule Society is a Nazi like occult secret organization. The Nazis in Thule started to take an interest in Bardon, who, like I have mentioned a few times now, he's a very powerful and amazing magician with incredible techniques. That is established. We know this. So it's hard for occultists to not take notice. And the Nazis definitely were known for legitimately dabbling in mysticism. So it's entirely possible that he was actually like noticed by the Nazis because of this. And apparently the Nazis had also begun persecuting members of Freemason lodges that were not sympathetic to the Third Reich. They weren't high on the priority list, but they definitely did. The Nazis discovered Bardon when they intercepted his correspondence with Wilhelm Quincher, who the book, like I said, describes him as a student and friend of Bardon, but other articles were like, oh, he's Bardon's teacher. I don't know what's true there. But they did have a relationship. And Bardon had asked Quincher, the way the book frames it is funny. It says that Bardon had asked Quincher to destroy their correspondence, but he didn't. And it makes a point to say it was Quincher's fault that Bardon was discovered by the Nazis, basically. Because obviously a super powerful magician would not be found out by the evil Nazis. It also says that when Quincher and Bardon were being tortured, Quincher lost his self-control and uttered a Kabbalistic formula, a spell that caused the Nazi torturers to suddenly become paralyzed.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So they're like torturing them, and then his partner is unable to control himself and like magically freezes the Nazis. And the Nazis end up retaliating by shooting Quincher, and he dies. But they were nonetheless intrigued by this mystical ability.
So is this is one of the parts that's definitely true and confirmable, right? Where he paralyzed all the Nazis with a Kabbalistic spell,
right?
And then they retaliated.
Well, okay. The part that's true is that that I can pretty much confirm is that Bardon was taken in by the Nazis. Like they took him because Bardon, I guess, was soon offered a high position in Hitler's Third Reich. And in exchange, he was expected to help them win the war by working with Thule and using magical abilities to defeat enemies. Hitler also, for some reason, wanted Bardon to reveal the locations of the other 98 lodges, which I guess were all enemies to the Dresden Lodge and Thule Society that Hitler belonged to. But when I looked into, I straight up was like reading an article about Nazi persecution of like Freemason lodges, and they were like chill with certain lodges that were more conservative and like sympathetic to the Nazis. So I guess they weren't part of that 98 lodges that Dresden was like focused on. I don't know. Fortunately, Bardon, our hero, refused to help the Nazis, and at his refusal, Bardon was taken to a concentration camp where he was subjected to more torture. So this definitely happened. He was put in a concentration camp. Bardon would end up stuck in the Nazis' camp for 3.5 years. And in 1945, right before the end of the war, he was sentenced to death. But before this sentence could be carried out, Soviet soldiers raided the camp and liberated it and freed him. So that happened. That all happened. However, some rumors did follow him out of the camp. In particular, that Bardon had discovered the true elixir of life at some point, and it's said in the stories that Nazis dissected him twice during torture, but he survived, and it implies that this was from usage of the elixir of life. So did he find it in the camp, or did he? No, I don't think so.
I was gonna say.
I think that in the past he had like used it. And was like, or like was aware of maybe an alchemical sort of combination that would create the elixir of life. I don't know for sure. This is just, again, there's a lot of things with this guy where it's just like, here's a rumor about a thing that he did or could do. Bardon would then return to his hometown in Czechoslovakia to continue his Hermetic works and write the books that I mentioned at the start of the episode. Also, it very casually mentions this. After the war, Franz Bardon used his magical abilities to determine that Adolf Hitler had escaped abroad and that he had undergone a number of surgical operations on his face so as not to be recognized. And then it just moves on. It does not ruminate on this idea.
This is one of my fucking favorite things in doing research for this show, is where you get one of these absolutely absurd nuggets where it just like offhandedly throws out, oh, and then this person may have stumbled through a wormhole into another dimension. Yeah. Or, he divined that Hitler had surgery and moved to Argentina. Yeah. And it's like, what? Please, this is why are you talking so much about every other thing but not this?
No. Please do not focus on the Hitler truths. We are talking about Bardon the Wizard. Yeah.
We gotta talk about his German stage magic career instead. Yeah, which, hey, that rules too.
It's wild how many times in stories like these, just like a random thing like that gets dropped, and you're just like, hold on, can we like talk about that for a minute? But that's all I've got on that subject. He just like, I guess, looked into his crystal ball and was like, yep, Hitler's still out there. So,
See, he really should have that really should have been like just a real change in his life where it's Hitler's still out there. I must find him and end him. Like that should have been the back half of his life.
dude, that would be an incredible. Unfortunately, that's not the back half of his life, but that would be such an incredible end to his career as a hermetic wizard. And a great movie, I think.
Well, also he has the fucking he could just make a Tepaphone and kill Hitler.
Oh, true.
Like, why do you not just do that?
If I had to venture a guess, I'd say it's probably something to do with particular like laws as a like user of hermetic like magic and occultism. Like he's the good guy, right? Like, so he doesn't do dark stuff like that. He doesn't do evil, murder, supernatural stuff, right? So that's my best guess, because let me read this final bit here. It will maybe elucidate a little bit what I'm talking about. Bardon worked on hermetics and taught these beliefs up until he was arrested in March of 1958 during a communist purge of Czechoslovakia. Vodovova claims that he was accused of being a spy for the West, but other accounts say he was accused of making illegal medicine and not paying taxes on alcohol he used for them. And then a third account that I don't know who's making these claims, but this is what the articles say. A third account claims that he made treasonous statements in letters that he sent to somebody in Australia. I don't know anything else.
I really feel like this is one of those cases where probably the not paying taxes on alcohol or making treasonous statements are the most likely.
Yeah.
Because those are the most boring. Like, they're the most just like, oh, a government got mad because you did something that like goes against their, like money or something got in the way. So, but I the other ones are more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I really don't know what happened there, but he was arrested in this like communist purge in Czechoslovakia, and he unfortunately died of pancreatitis on July 10th, 1958, while he was in the custody of the police. And it's said that despite his great power as a magician, it was forbidden by the karmic laws of Hermeticism to use these powers to heal himself. But yeah,
didn't he already use the elixir of life? How did that like?
I don't know what the elixir of life consists of. I only can speculate, because it's possible that maybe it's not a hermetic like thing that he created and just like a thing that he found. I really don't know. Yeah, there's some conflicting stuff in here, but that's just what you get with these kinds of stories. I really don't know, but he has, I guess, from his texts, his own take on Hermeticism. That I think, like, for instance, one of the things, him being the reincarnation of Hermes contradicts a lot of the established Hermeticism, and it has something to do with like karma points, effectively, like Hermes in the afterlife has to like pay his karma debt or something. But in this conflicting version, his like debt is effectively paid off, allowing him to be reincarnated into this body. It's a thing that, again, I think we'd have to get into with an episode on his brand of Hermeticism, because we could do an entire episode on Bardonian Hermeticism, but this is the sort of broad account of Franz Bardon's life, aka Frabato the Magician. And I even found that there is a Reddit community dedicated specifically to his brand of Hermetic occultism and practices. And I found an article that seems to be a critique of Bardon's Hermeticism that dives into like particulars of the practices, Hermetic texts, rituals, etc. So, whole other beast to slay at some point.
Yeah, that's it. This definitely feels like one of those things that we could revisit at a later date with more episodes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. And I'd be happy to. I was fascinated by this. I don't know where the truth ends or begins with this stuff, but it was very interesting. So that is the life of Franz Bardon. Anything else before we hit the big question, Nile?
No, because I've been trying really hard not to make a Domo Arigato, Mr. Frabato
the entire time
strain joke this entire episode. So we got to get moving, or else I will make it. So
very fair.
Let's go ahead and go into a big question.
Cool. Nile, If you could repurpose an outdated technology as a supernatural weapon, what would that technology be, and how would it harm or kill your enemies?
All right, so I would, if I'm going to repurpose a piece of old technology, I want to do something that is a little unexpected. I think I would want to use an old soda fountain.
Oh, okay.
Because then you get to, the people who kill people get to still be called soda jerks because they, it's kind of a jerk thing to do to kill somebody. So I think that still fits. But like there's the pageantry of the soda fountain that I think is interesting, and it's just a lot of like carbonated waters and syrups and stuff, which fits with like like mixing up some sort of weird death potion kind of stuff. So you could easily make a monstrous soda fountain that you can craft like different poisons and acids and shit out of. Yeah. And so it would be, of course, served cold, and like all good death. And I think that would be kind of the thing. So there'd be some like pageantry to it, maybe even like a song and dance, like a good like throwback restaurant, and the death by soda fountain.
Yeah, you could even feed it to the construction workers above your apartment right now that are interrupting our episode.
Oh my god, I would love to bring them a fucking frosty mug of death. This has been going on for so fucking long, and I think
inevitably there will be some hammering caught up in the episode. So, but it's okay. It happens.
We didn't get to record yesterday because it was Power Tool Day.
Yeah.
So luckily today there's just some hammering. So sorry everybody. I'm going to edit out as much of it as I can.
Yeah. They started hammering at 6:15 p.m. So, but yeah,
go figure.
I do like your idea for a for a soda fountain. I like the soda jerk kind of being the name of the assassin. And dude, did you consider the fact that you could just like get a huge, like take the cup and just mix a bunch of the sodas together and then give it to your target and be like, care for a suicide?
Yeah, I mean, look, the jokes write themselves. So, how has there not been a horror movie about a murderous soda fountain yet, or like an old school, fucking like malt shop soda fountain thing? I'm thinking this is highly local, but Kyle, I'm specifically thinking of like Zaharicos. That is what I'm thinking of.
That's exactly where my mind went.
Yeah. So this was a place in the town that Kyle and I grew up in that had a soda fountain that was literally bought from like a like turn of the century World's Fair, and was like a local ice cream shop, soda fountain shop kind of place that was in various states of repair throughout our time growing up. So it's very old fashioned, very oldie soda shoppy kind of feel.
If you ever happen to be in the area for whatever reason, and I don't know why you would, but check out Zaharicos, because fuck it.
Yeah, go do the architecture tour and then go to Zaharicos, and that's really all you need to do in the town.
Then you can leave and never come back. Yeah, okay. I really like that idea. That's like a very fun idea. There's a lot of flavor that you could introduce with that. And
fuck you.
I'm thinking I would probably take an iPod Classic, and that would be my weapon of choice. And what it's going to do is it's going to psychically blast your ears with the music of Three Doors Down, and the target is going to experience whatever, I don't know the name of any of their albums, but a Three Doors Down album on a loop until it drives them mad. They will not be able to get it out of their head. It will be in their head forever until they finally, kick the bucket or it drives them crazy. So I guess it doesn't directly like kill them, but at a certain point you listen to Three Doors Down and you're thinking about it.
Fair enough. Now I think like this does have a weakness in the fact that Three Doors Down has a lot of fans. Now, what if this iPod Classic was loaded with with various songs that were named some sort of injury, i.e. like Fat Lip by Sum 41.
Okay.
Or you can,
so it projects that particular injury onto the person if you force them to listen to it. I actually like that much better than my idea by a lot.
So you can put like Swing of the Axe by Mind Force on there, and then that'll take care of it. You can put on swinging swords, chopping lords by Mind Force. Basically, you can load this up with all sorts
Mind
of
Force tunes.
Mind Force tunes.
You can load up Skyscraper by Touche Amore and they fucking fall from a 60-story building or whatever. That'd be awesome.
So I think that, like, look, the iPod Classic has, it would be kind of a waste of the marked storage capacity of an iPod Classic to just put on a Three Doors Down album.
Fair.
Although you might be able to use some of those for injury. Maybe widen the net here, and let them be ironically descriptive song titles.
I like that. I like that idea.
Weapon of Choice even would be a good one.
Yeah. War profiteering could cause just like a whole lot of death. The suicide
Already
machines,
does.
war profit. Well, right. So literally the concept, but then you load up war profiteering and you just like fucking obliterate just like a whole bunch of people all at once. That was darker than I really intended it to be.
Yeah, that went some places, but that happens here.
Yeah. Well, both great answers. Do you wanna move on to some business to wrap this one up, Nile?
Yeah, let's go and wrap this one up before someone busts out like an electric saw
Please,
above
yes.
me. So if you want to find more of this podcast, you can find us on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers, from Stitcher to Google Play to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. Just look up It Gets Weird somewhere if you listen to podcasts, and we're probably there.
itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. We have been getting a lot of really great emails from a lot of great listeners because you're all great. You're all wonderful. That's a thing that 250 some episodes I'm learning. You're all great. You're all just wonderful.
Yeah.
And we love getting emails from you. We eat them. So there's been a lot of good stuff coming in, and we appreciate it. I think this episode was going to go pretty long, so I didn't read any emails. I don't think we have any to read right now. But yeah, feel free to hit us up there and send us information. We get people sending us stories of their encounters with the paranormal, with cryptids, with UFOs, all kinds of stuff. And we love getting those stories. Patreon.com/ItGetsWeird. Look, if you like our show, and if you made it this far in the episode, you probably do. Please, if you can find it in your heart to donate $1, $2, or $5 to us, then that's the perfect place for you. At the $2 and $5 levels, you get bonus content and access to our secret Discord, where we talk about all kinds of stuff. This is actually where I mentioned at the start of the episode, the actual like topic came up in a discussion. So if that sounds cool to you, check it out. And then $1 tier is just kind of like to kick us a buck. You don't get anything, but it's just like, hey, I like your stuff, so thanks for doing what you do. And we appreciate everybody who donates. And we appreciate everybody who listens and doesn't donate as well. If you can't donate, and we understand if you can't, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your Congress people all about It Gets Weird podcasts. And just, help us advertise, because we don't do any bullshit advertising, and we never will. So yeah, word of mouth. It's all because of y'all that we're able to just keep doing this show. And we appreciate it.
And on that note, actually, one more plug.
Oh, yeah.
I actually started another podcast last week with friend of the show Jules about wrestling. So this kind of happened as a side thing of like a bonus show that we were doing that then we decided to expand. So episode 1 is up. It's called The Outside Dive. Follow us at Outside Dive Cast on Twitter. We're on Apple Podcasts now and a couple other places. We're working on getting on Spotify. It just takes a little longer. Comes out every Friday evening. Talks about AEW and whatever other wrestling we watch. So if you want to listen to a podcast by me and friend of the show Jules about wrestling, go look up The Outside Dive on major podcast networks. So
yeah, check out The Outside Dive, and thank y'all for listening to It Gets Weird as always.
All right. On that note, I've been Nile.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.